Today we're going to talk about Bitcoin mining. Bitcoins, acronized as BTC, are a virtual currency, a cryptocurrency. Coins or partial coins are represented by a number, which is like a hash, just like your phone number, but much more longer. And there are different types of coins, for example, Litecoin or Coinyear.
So there's basically, as of right now, three main types of cryptocurrency. Bitcoin, which is basically, or Bitcoin-based. There's other Bitcoin variants that use SHA-256 encryption. So basically, the encryption for Bitcoin was based off of an algorithm that the NSA, we basically hand out like a reward every year, a few years to get together, do a very, very strong mathematical operation and verify that this math algorithm is nearly uncrackable. So the encryption that they use for that is called SHA-256. It's proven to work many years. There's another one out there called Litecoin or LTC. There's other ones based off of that, like you mentioned, Coin.
I think it's pronounced Coinyear.
Coinyear, which is just kind of a variant. A lot of people created their own variants off of this Litecoin. There was with Dogecoin, like literally internet memes.
Dogcoin.
Yeah, Dogcoin.
Dogcoin, that was it.
They created these off of that, but they all are based off of Script, which is basically a newer encryption algorithm. The purpose, reason why they came out with the Litecoin variants is that it requires a lot different type of calculations to verify and render it. Basically, they have large vector pseudorandom bit strings. So by doing that, you create a harder, more memory-intensive way to calculate the data. So that kind of alleviates the Bitcoin mining they use for like the GPUs and other devices that are application-specific. So you need something like a computer with raw computing power to do it. I think they have a lot newer, basically application-specific ones to Bitcoin mine. But we'll get later into Bitcoin mining, what it is. And then lastly, there is Ripple, which is also XRP. Ripple is different than all the other ones, like a Litecoin-based or Bitcoin-based. It's not as decentralized. Bitcoin in general, the purpose of it was that you didn't have governing bodies control how the money is. It's more of an open community and how it's distributed. And with the Ripple, it's basically similar concept. You basically have an encryption algorithm that communicates, but you have a consensus ledger. So basically, different industries controlling and regulating how that works, and it works a little differently.
So how it works is when you buy something with a Bitcoin, the transaction gets sent to what's called a blockchain, and the blockchain gets processed by the Bitcoin miners. And pretty much like how much is a Bitcoin worth? Bitcoin is worth however much someone is willing to pay for it or trade for it. Just like our US dollar. It's not really worth anything. It's just how much someone is willing to trade you for it. It really has no really value. And then the blockchain is a list of all the transactions, which yes, it's a very big file. Like you have to download it when you do the Bitcoin mining. And once your transaction gets verified by the Bitcoin miners, it becomes a valid part of the blockchain. So every Bitcoin that's ever been produced, or every partial Bitcoin, is all listed on the transaction as to who it was, or where it belongs, and where it's going. So that's what the blockchain is. And what is it, like 17 megs or gigabytes or something like that?
I think it's close to 20 gigabytes. So they basically have a journal of all the transactions. It's kind of like ledger system, like the Federal Reserve. It's essentially a governmentized Federal Reserve, if that makes sense.
Alright, maybe the next one?
Yeah. So Bitcoin miners will check the Bitcoin hashes that the seller hash. So basically, these Bitcoin hashes are very large prime numbers, kind of calculations, going back to the whole encryption thing where they have these pseudo numbers that kind of combine and encrypt together. And that Bitcoin hash is a representation of your transaction. And what Bitcoin miners do is they go out to that pool, all these, the Bitcoin chain and block and all that. They verify all these transactions through raw calculation powers.
If you were selling something to me, like I'll give you some Bitcoins for it, and they'll verify my Bitcoin hash, your Bitcoin hash, and the transaction and the amount of the Bitcoin's hash. So all 3 hashes would need to be verified as good, and then it'll be added to the blockchain, something like that.
Yeah, and what it is that they basically also, with Bitcoin mining, they go through the software and check that if, and this gets into encryption and crypto and how that works, but they verify that there is no repeating zeros or some type of number in there that they can actually verify that this could be used as a exploit for the encryption algorithm. So they go through that, and then basically the Bitcoin miners, when they verify this transaction and verify, hey, these are solid people, or this has some type of issue, they basically get a reward for doing that. So you're basically using your own electricity, your own hardware to verify these transactions, and by doing that, you get rewarded a piece of the whole Bitcoin. And there's essentially, was it 25,000 Bitcoins out there?
Oh, for all the possible numbers of them you could possibly have.
Well, they're all like Bitcoins, the full,
Yeah,
like,
full.
I think there's 25,000, but it's not like there's $25,000. Bitcoins are decimal places. You could go down to like 0.000001. And essentially, one Bitcoin right now is represented as equivalent to like $300 US, somewhere around there.
$236.22.
Yeah.
One Bitcoin.
Yeah.
One Bitcoin, yeah. So like you'll never really be buying stuff with like whole Bitcoins. You'll be doing like partial Bitcoins.
Like cents or something like that. I mean, and the thing is, you're not carrying around change, so it really doesn't matter. It's just a representation value of what is the currency, because you're not carrying anything around. You're just setting up.
The next one. So we have miners out there. A Bitcoin miner is a computer system that solves hashes for the blockchain. It also looks for new hashes, new Bitcoins. When your Bitcoin miner finds a new hash, you get rewarded 25 Bitcoins. And that's currently one Bitcoin, or 25 Bitcoins is currently worth $5,905.50. So if you're at a computer system, you're mining on your own, and you came up with a number that comes up prime, and like, hey, we found a new Bitcoin, you'll get rewarded 25 Bitcoins for it. So you end up getting $5,900. So it's really good, but it's also very hard to do. So one of the things they'll do is, instead of trying to have a humongous computer system to try to find all the Bitcoins, you usually join a pool and you do partial bits of it. And then we have a couple different ways that Bitcoin mining can be done. We have CPU mining. These use your CPU to do all the calculations, which you can imagine is very slow. You can use FPGA mining. That stands for a field programmable gated array. So you'll take a chip and program it just to do these calculations. So a lot faster than CPU. Then the one that's really faster is a GPU mining. They take your video card and use the graphic processing unit to do all the hashes and number crunches for you, which is good because those are parallel calculations or something like that. And then the newest way of doing it is with ASIC miners. ASIC is an application-specific integrated circuit. These chips are designed just to do Bitcoin mining, and they're streamlined to get the fastest hash rates. You want to tell them what hash rate is?
Yeah, sure. So hash rate is basically how fast the miners take to resolve that problem. The problem with hash rates is that there is so many people in that market competing in that, like Bitcoin mining and resolving these issues, that you're going against a very large collection. But it's basically you're doing two things. One is you're contributing to the concept of Bitcoins and helping establish that, and you're also getting a piece of that reward for doing that.
Yeah. In the real world comparison, Bitcoin is like the new age of credit cards with no centralized authority.
With no centralized entity.
Yeah, so there's no centralized authority. Like with a bank, you have to go to the institution to put your money in or take your money out, or go to their website. It's all backed by them. I think most banks are backed by the government too.
Yeah, but I mean,
with the Bitcoins, we don't have any of that. It's all decentralized. Everything is governed by the blockchain and the community.
And like Visa, they get like a 3% for business transactions, stuff like that. So they're getting a chunk of the money. Obviously, they have their own staff and people to regulate that and control it. So it's not like we're just handing them free money. But the thing is that with this cryptocurrency, that alleviates the issues of having somebody verify all these transactions when the hardware itself is verifying all that. Go, sorry.
And in the Bitcoin mining, a decentralized Federal Reserve, it builds new blockchains, like just like printing money, and it verifies transactions as legit, and so it's sanctioned. And then a Bitcoin wallet is a new age bank account. Like so, if you want to do Bitcoin mining, your miners will accumulate partial Bitcoins, and then when you want to cash those in, you want to transfer them to your Bitcoin wallet. So you'll have a Bitcoin wallet, and I think that also gets a hash too.
Yep. And then your Bitcoin wallet, it doesn't have to be Bitcoin mining specific. It's essentially your wallet for Bitcoin. So if you would never want to do Bitcoin mining and you just want to have a Bitcoin account and do Bitcoin transactions, you basically find a provider that translates, cash money or something into that, and you get basically Bitcoins out of that.
You can pretty much transfer your Bitcoin money into any other currency, which is one thing that's really nice. You don't have to go to some special bank to process it. And then we have the blockchain, which is like a public ledger of transactions. So you know exactly where all the money is and where it's gone and who has what. Then we have hardware in Bitcoin mining is your controller, accountant, like your CFO, the thing that calculates that all transactions are valid.
So Bitcoin price is basically based just like any other value, like your euro or your franc or your Canadian dollar or whatever. It's basically somebody gets together, says that all these types of currencies, and says that how much value of supply and demand we have overall, and we base it off of that. There's no such thing as like everyone's like, oh, our dollar is based off a gold standard. No, it's based off of all the supply and demand globally. It's been, basically addressed and how much that dollar equates to what, that value is. And all that we do for Bitcoin is essentially based our value off the global currency. So we're doing the same exact thing. We're not doing all the work with verifying supply and demand, but that's essentially how, Bitcoin is a value. And I mean, there's no like fabrication of like how money is very tangible. It's basically consensus of every person out there verifying that.
So that's pretty much the basics of what the Bitcoins are and what it is and how to use them. Does anybody have any questions?
So this could be used for money laundering.
I mean, the problem with any type of new age technology, and it's just the same with like anything else, like even like nuclear energy, the first thing they used for nuclear energy was to create nukes and bomb people. Any type of new thing, their people aren't up to speed in understanding it, so they're gonna use it for bad things. Silk Road was a great example of one of those bad things. If you look at how the original cryptocurrency or Bitcoin was when it was created, one of the things that the owner of that created it was biggest pet peeve was wiring money from a country to another country and have to they pay all these transaction fees, loyalty fees. So he's like, why do I have to spend all this money just to give money to somebody else? Or why do I have to do that? I mean, I could have a form of currency that is verified by the general public, just like anything else, and sent over there. So I guess the other problem is it's a little bit more anonymous. So your transactions aren't really like linked to you as a person, but all of that actually is verified through your Bitcoin wallet. So if they need to, they can see who has this Bitcoin wallet, who's doing these transactions, and they can kind of verify that okay, this guy's doing illegal stuff and arrest them.
Yeah, and too, like if you want to do some illegal actions and you need to pay for it, you can always just pay for it with cash.
Yeah, nobody's gonna verify that stuff too.
Yeah.
Do you think Bitcoin will continue to be the standard, or do you think boutique currency that people are making themselves are going to eventually phase out the original Bitcoin?
Two ways, because I see our money, the United States dollar, just losing value. Like it's like $5 for a gallon of milk at a gas station. It's insane. And then we're not getting paid much as far as our wages go. Like people aren't making as much money as they should be because all the unions are gone. So it's like, I see this falling apart going on. So it's like now we have this thing coming up. Yeah, it's just like PayPal. When PayPal first came out and eBay started pushing on everybody hated it. Everyone retaliated against it. But now PayPal is just like second nature. It's like, oh, you're gonna PayPal to me? No problem.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy.
So I do see it as going to have a lot of trouble. A lot of people are going to have trouble accepting it. But as things move on, it's going to get even better. Because I believe there's a road in Cleveland called Bitcoin Road, where all the shops on that road accept Bitcoin. So it's not centralized, so I see it as something that's not going to fall apart as easy as something that is centralized and backed by a government.
And to go back to your question about like illegal activities, I mean, there is always illegal activities no matter what. I mean, you look at drug cartels, stuff like that, they use cash, the federal reserve money that we issue out. It's just as hard to track somebody with cash versus bitcoins. The only thing is that with bitcoins, people in the federal government don't like it because it's such a new technology that probably only like less than 1% of them understand it. So they don't know how to regulate it, so they instantly shun it away.
And that's one thing that's nice about it. It's not regulated. The one thing I like, which is kind of a flip side to the illegal side of it, is I've had 3 class action lawsuits with banks for doing what's called transaction stacking, where they nail you with a whole bunch of overdraft fees. And I was like, at one point I think I was paying like $75 a month because the banks kept hitting me with overdraft fees and transfer fees and stuff like that. And moving to Bitcoins, I'm not going to have any of that.
Do you think somebody sufficiently capitalized, whatever you want to say, could destroy Bitcoin by dumping millions of dollars in it for an investment opportunity? Do you think it's
You mean as
not stable?
You mean as like someone like me going and buying all the Bitcoins and then now I control all the Bitcoins?
And then selling them all and destabilize. Do you think Bitcoin is a stable
They
currency?
could try that, but it's not a centralized thing. Everybody is jumping on this bandwagon, so you're not the only one trying to buy all the Bitcoins.
With sufficient currency of an individual, do you think a individual could destroy Bitcoin?
I don't know. How much do you think it would take to do that?
I mean, probably
About 100 million, right?
more than that, I would say. I mean, they
You're
basically
3 decimal points off.
And the thing is with that is that if somebody starts buying a bunch of bitcoins, the value is going to fluctuate. Whoever owns that too.
And
So,
there's the other thing too is as more Bitcoins are found, they increase the difficulty. Pretty much they take the decimal point and move it back 3 or 5 or 7 spaces. So then now the hash just got a magnitude harder to solve. So like my miners that I have now were great in the beginning. Now they earn like nothing because the difficulty has gone up. So if someone bought all the Bitcoins, they could just increase the difficulty tenfold, and now what you own isn't as good as what you owned before.
and the reason why they do that method that he's talking about is that they basically increase the Bitcoin pool, so they add more Bitcoins over time to it. So it makes it harder for mining, and then they also calculate, I assume they calculate Moore's law to that too, because after over a certain amount of years, encryption is getting weaker because hardware is becoming stronger to figure that out. So they increase the actual way that how the Bitcoin mining works, because they increase the actual strength on there.
I guess
So
the way
it's more of a mathematical thing of adding more Bitcoins and making it harder because hardware is going to be able to crack it easier.
Another way to look at it too would be like number one, like 1 decimal point, that solid 1 Bitcoin is now going to be worth like $10,000 instead of $1,000. So the effort you took to earn that $1,000 is now going to be tenfold to try to earn it again.
Does PayPal take Bitcoins?
I don't think so.
There would be competitors in that sense because PayPal is basically they have the credit card transactions, stuff like that. So it's an entirely different field. But a lot of people do take Bitcoin, such as Newegg.com, Amazon. There's a lot of people you can pay through Bitcoins. So it's essentially, PayPal would never incorporate Bitcoins because it's kind of a different concept that it's almost competing in a way.
Yeah, another one, I'll go ahead and read it.
After the Mt. Gox incident, how secure do you feel that a Bitcoin wallet is now?
I guess it comes back to the same question why a lot of people fear it is because the problem with any type of digital currency is that it's harder to maintain control. So like if I hack your computer and your Bitcoin's wallet's on it, I could steal all the transactions off of that and steal your money. But that's no difference than me breaking into your house and stealing your wallet. So the problem is you're talking about the adopting Bitcoin is going to be a lot harder because there's a lot of people that aren't technologically savvy that use computers a whole lot. So they're more used to like, I hand you $1 and I get a service. Some people don't even use like PayPal or credit cards.
Yeah, and
So
one of the things
your
want-
demographics are getting smaller with using the
Well,
Bitcoin.
one part you probably want to attack is the actual blockchain itself, but trying to spoof the blockchain would be hard because when I mine Bitcoins, it downloaded that 20 gigabyte blockchain. When he mines Bitcoins, it downloaded that 20 gigabyte blockchain. So on this network, we can compare each other and be like, hey, I got a transaction saying that Joe Blow here took $20,000 worth of Bitcoins. And you're like, no, it's not on my chain, it's not an approved transaction.
Yeah.
So you have this community-based ledger that you're gonna have to try to forge to get the Bitcoin.
Yeah, and there's literally no way to hack the blockchain because you're going against like beyond most supercomputers of computing power because there's so much Bitcoin miners out there. You're talking about consensus of all these computers. I'm sure even NSA has a bunch of Bitcoin miners. There's a bunch of things out there that are in that ledger verifying transactions. So for somebody to build enough computers to overcome that, the Bitcoin mining pool, which I think is like 50%, you have to do that to alter that. You're talking about probably almost close to $1 billion in hardware.
And just,
For every transaction, that's checked against the entire blockchain?
Yep.
Or how does it get that information to whoever is making the transaction?
well, it's a peer-to-peer network, there's no centralization, so it goes across to everyone, I believe.
Yeah, and basically there's a delegation pools, so your Bitcoin mining pools. So you have a lot of people that kind of, and it doesn't mean that it has to go to one, it could go to any of these, and they basically have designated areas that they all communicate their transactions through verified things.
Because I know my blockchain is always updating. Like, once you get the big portion of it downloaded, you're good to go, and it just updates constantly. One thing about security breaches was there was a famous story on the internet where the guy, a news reporter, they all got Bitcoins as like a Christmas gift. So it was like, I forget how much they were worth, like $100 each or something like that. And he was showing it off, like, oh, the certificate has got a little barcode on it, which represents the hash. Well, it was an HD news station. Well, somebody watching the station zoomed in, scanned the hash on their TV, just pointed the camera at the TV, scanned the hash, and stole his Bitcoin.
And that's another reason why a lot of people don't like Bitcoins, because they're not used to understand that technology.
It'd be like me flashing my credit card on TV. It's like, oh yeah, well look, it's got a little number on the back too. It's like you just gave away all your money. So there's security issues there. And then there's the other issue too, where like, if you write your password down on a sticky note, you kind of blow out any kind of security you ever had.
You can invest these Bitcoins.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's one thing I wish I did when I first heard about them, because they're only worth like $30 each. And then like, 3 months later, they put a news story about Mt. Gox going on, and Bitcoin prices jumped up to like $500 each.
Now, that's the price of Bitcoin, but can you invest with the Bitcoins and get interest or put them into the market and grow them into?
I don't know any like stocks. I'm not sure if there's any stock companies that accept Bitcoins, but I mean essentially Bitcoin is a cash, so you can't invest in cash. You use cash to invest in other things. So it'd be the same thing.
Things back and forth.
Yeah, so it'd be the same thing with Bitcoins, that you can't invest in Bitcoins in the sense of like, okay, I'm gonna put money into a stock market. You need to take that Bitcoins out and put it into something that changes, or a stock market or gold. But Bitcoins as of a value, it's kind of like the US dollar. It goes up, US dollar, like our US dollar is I think $1.10 per Canada dollar. But in a few years it might be 0.8 cents per Canada dollar. It's the same exact thing with Bitcoins, that due to supply and demand, recent news, when Mt. Gox happened, when that got compromised, obviously the price went down a lot because everyone feared that. And what it came down to is that people were fearing it, but it was just because they didn't know how to secure it as well. So they're a huge target, and they could, it's basically, going to the Swiss bank at that time and knowing that you could get in there and steal all the money from the Swiss bank. And that's what they did with Mt. Gox.
I got a question.
Yeah, go.
All right, going back to the basics. I'm from an older generation than you guys are, so I heard about these Bitcoins. I thought, okay, that makes sense. Especially the one where you said where transactions to go from one country to another. You buy Bitcoins, and now it could be money laundering, but you can put that money it's electronics like PayPal or something where you get, we never even get paychecks anymore, you get your direct deposit and everything, but now it's out of the hands of the people want to grab from you, you can transact with that. So I'm thinking money, Bitcoin to money. And then we said, no, it's a computer generated kind of thing. It's a computer generated, you mean you make Bitcoins? Yeah. So I'm thinking, well, is that like and he says, big calculations. I said, well, was that like when they were trying to get everyone to use their home PCs to solve the cure for leukemia? They gave them their off hours and let them do that. And then, so you get paid for that. That'd be kind of cool, Everyone pulling their computers together. And what you're really working on is solving some really important thing, and you get fractions of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
No, you're just finding numbers. I'm like, I'm still not understanding that part.
Yeah.
What the heck are you doing in this mining and everything that is making you Bitcoin?
Well, my friend explained it in a real simple way. I don't know if it exactly matches how they're doing it, but he said, well, you have a number, like number 9, is it prime? Yeah, it's prime, all right. So the Bitcoin numbers are prime numbers. But the only problem is it's 37 digits long. So you got to figure out, is that 37-digit number prime? So what you're doing is you're like, take a random number that's 37 digits long and then run through the calculations to see if that is prime. And once you solve that, whether it's prime, like, hey, you found a new number that represents a Bitcoin. Now all the numbers that are not prime do not represent a Bitcoin number.
Who's giving you value to tell them, oh, there's another prime numbers? Who wants to know what these prime numbers are that is willing to give you,
The
what
block-
we said,
the community-
$236?
Yeah, what's the value in finding this? Yeah,
So
I agree
basically-
with that,
Yeah, so basically that value is, there's no like person that says, okay, this is cool, that's correct or not. It's literally all math calculations at a high level, and that goes back to that ledger. So it's all part of the program saying, hey, my this little thing calculated a value that proved that this transaction's valid or this transaction's finicky. And then basically by doing that, it goes back to that pool and verifies that and gives you a reward for helping out with the community. So instead of actually having humans like at the Federal Reserve or whatever, calculate all these numbers, make sure these transactions are properly, you're replacing all those humans with a device that actually takes those numbers and calculates it for you.
It'd be kind of like paying somebody to design and print a more secure US dollar that's not copyable. Because I know like the $20 bill, they got all these security implications into it to make it so it'd be hard for anybody to copy. Well, we want a number that will be hard for somebody to just make up out of the top of their head.
Yeah.
I still don't get it. I mean,
All right.
no one does anything for nothing. I mean, if they're paying you to do something, use your computer to come up with another prime number.
Yep.
What are they getting out of it that they would give you currency for that?
It's a community base. So it's essentially you're helping out verifying the transactions and in that block ledger and saying that you're helping out, so it gives you a reward for doing that. So you're basically, it's kind of like taxes as an example. So you obviously, everyone pays taxes here. What are we paying taxes for? Well, somebody verifies that that money goes into road and stuff like that. It's the same exact concept that with Bitcoins that you're verifying transactions, and out of all that dollars that there, they give you a small piece of that Bitcoins back, and then so that value of Bitcoins kind of, so it's kind of hard to explain, but yeah.
It could be like when you find that prime number, they can use it to generate $100,000 worth of transactionable pieces. They give you 25 of them as a reward.
Yeah. So you're basically getting a reward, and it's coming from that same pool that everyone else uses in their money. So yeah, your small fraction percentage of your, I guess, put it as a way, taxes for your reward for doing that, and that goes back to the community. So yeah, now instead of 25,000 Bitcoins, you got 25,000 and 25 Bitcoins. And so they see how that fluctuates in value, and that goes back. Does it make a little sense then?
You could go back to like, why did the colonials make their own currency when they came into America instead of just using the British currency? I know there's probably reasons for that, and I think Bitcoins might be the same drive. Like one of the things would be driving that would be, hey, let's get a system together that doesn't charge us fees to transfer our money overseas. Or let's get a system together where we can take your money out of an ATM without having to pay to get your money out of the ATM. It's really bad when you got to pay $2 to $4 to get your own money out of a machine that's ran by your own bank. So it's another system that's being put together, and well, somebody's driving it. I don't really know who, but there's community based, so I guess the community is what's driving it.
I still understand. I still could see. I'll give you $25. Give me a Bitcoin, and then okay, now you'll accept the Bitcoin for that $25 bicycle you're selling. Okay, that makes sense. I had to pay. You get a Bitcoin. You can turn it into other money or use it to get other things, bartering. But this idea of generating a Bitcoin out of thin air by finding a number and someone giving you money for that, what are they getting from you finding that they're willing to pay you a Bitcoin? It still confuses me. I know you just explained it, but it still seems abracadabra to me. It's why they do that. Okay. Do you get taxed on it?
No, I don't think so.
That's another reason for the Bitcoin system is no taxes, right?
Well, it's not. There's no taxes on it. You still use bitcoins to buy things, and when you buy things, you get taxed on it, just like cash.
Yeah.
If I get cash out of the bank, I'm not getting taxed for that. The cash that I get out of the bank.
Yeah, but
If you
you're
did it,
generating it from nothing. You just
well,
earn money, but you're not claiming that on your taxes.
according to the state law, like
That
if Alex sells something to me and he pays for it with a Bitcoin, I still need to charge tax on that because we just did a transaction within the state of Ohio.
I agree. I bet a lot don't, though.
So it'd be really funny though if I paid the tax as a Bitcoin to the IRS.
Well, that makes
Whether they would accept it is a big question. Usually they just accept cash, but I'd have to transfer a portion of that Bitcoin into real cash that we pay for the tax.
Okay.
So yeah, you're right. There is no tax for the service you provide for the Bitcoin mining. Just like if I would work at the bank and count money for people, I would get paid that and I would get taxed on that. And that's money now in my pocket. Bitcoin mining, you don't get that tax. But any other Bitcoin transaction goes through the normal systems of, okay, I paid, Amazon.com this money. Amazon, if it's in the state of Ohio, now I pay tax on that. That person who's selling me, I pays tax on it.
Yeah, if you want, we can do take some look at some hardware and like what it takes to get yourself started with mining, like what kind of computer system you need. I've been doing these. These are ASIC miners, the application-specific ICs. These ones are called block eruptors. They do about 333 mega hashes. That mega hash is like the rate at which it runs. This is about the same power as like if you took a video card, like a high-end graphics card, and use that for a mining. They would do like 200 to like 300 mega hashes. And this little chip here, if you want to take a look at it, it's that guy right there. That little chip does all the same amount of power.
So instead of having a CPU that does standard, calculations that a normal, operating system, stuff like that does,
Right.
what this does is that they fabricate that chip there specifically for one action only, calculating the blockchain and all that stuff. So instead of having all this, big, brain, so to speak, to do all these different calculations, talk, listen, hear, it takes that brain and makes it only one function only, and that's to do that.
And it's calculating more and more prime numbers. Is that what you're saying?
Essentially, the calculation.
So what keeps someone who has a supercomputer from just starting to generate every prime number until he's blue in the face or he runs out of power? I mean,
And that's
wouldn't
what
he be the richest person in the world?
That's what a lot of people are doing. There was just an article about a Bitcoin mining facility that went up in smoke. It burnt down a huge like server racks with just tons and tons of computers. They had a before and after picture. The before picture looked really slick. Everything was kind of like nice and neat. The after picture was a disaster. Everything like melted and burned, like servers, shelves melted.
But they make enough money to cover their losses.
I don't know, because I've been Bitcoin mining for a while and I haven't heard. I think I'm up to like $30.
So
It's always a question of like, why are people doing it? I'm like, well, everyone's doing it. There's still a lot of people out mining. Like, I think the BTC Guild, the mining group I'm in, has got like, I think it's like 50 terahashes or something like that.
So I guess Bitcoin mining is like it's an investment that you really don't get a whole lot of return in unless you do it properly. Like if you have the newest ASCII miners, you know what you're doing. If you're running like solar power, obviously you're not generating any electricity. You're not paying for any of that. So if you plan something out where like I got a bunch of solar panels and I'm doing this, I'm gonna gain money for Bitcoin mining. But for a general like sense, like if I would do that at home, for the electricity I'm using, I'm probably gonna not break even with that hardware.
So what are you doing with these? these?
Well, right now, I got about 20 of these, and they're like keeping my house warm. So it's like a big electric heater that sometimes earns me money.
So you plug these into multiple USB ports on your computer?
Yes, and you have to be careful because this little guy here will actually draw like 500 milliamps. So you can only put like maybe 2 of these onto a computer. Even though you have like 4 or 5 USB ports, you can only put so many per each one because the power that they draw is actually
It does all the math, not your CPU, so you're not doing it on your computer.
Oh yeah, you can, like if you had a laptop and you use your graphics card in the laptop to do Bitcoin mining, you could probably fry your laptop because it'll overheat the GPU. And these do get warm from time to time, so they do that. I'm really jumping in on it to try to get on the bandwagon, hopefully soon enough that I can actually be a part of it. Like one of the things I said before is I kind of wish I just invested in them and bought a whole bunch of Bitcoins ahead of time and just sat on them until they got up to a value and then resell them. You can do the same thing with the hardware too. These guys are anywhere from $5 to $20 is what I paid for these.
You've only made $30?
Yeah, I've only made like $30. So I'm in the hole.
So where can one get a program that does this and run it on a regular computer if they had to?
There's a BFG miner, there's like GUI miner, CG miner.
CG miner.
There's basically different programs you can run on different computers. Like there's Windows-based ones, there's Linux-based ones. There's ones that work a little bit better for like.
You can use that if you need some scrap paper.
But what it comes down to is, as you have to do a lot of research and knowledge into exactly what you want to do for Bitcoin mining. If you're able to do like solar panel, or some people just use their computers to heat up their house and stuff like that. There is a lot of benefit to that because, I mean, obviously buying a space heater versus running a computer is the same thing. You're creating a device that's creating a certain amount of thermal units, but instead of just a space heater blowing out heat for no reason, you're actually using that heat to calculate things.
One thing I thought about doing was building a suitcase. It's just a huge miner. And then when I go to hotels, the conventions, just use the hotel power to Bitcoin mine while I'm at the convention. Like, yeah, I'm earning money.
Where's it storing the results when it finds it? In there also?
Well, when you connect it to the internet, it signs into whatever mining pool that you're a part of, and then you have your own wallet and your own passwords and stuff. So anything that you earn gets occurred into your accounts.
Okay. Are we still on camera? We are. Okay, so be careful what I say about taxes.
All right. Well, we're pretty much done. I can go ahead and stop it.
Yeah, I've got stuff.
I'm sorry.
It's probably like it gets too big. It ends up taking up a lot of space, and then trying to upload videos from home at my house is a pain.